let's talk about React Perf tools then. Okay, so go into clientapp.jsx, and I want you to import perf from react-addons-perf, and we're going to say window.perf equals perf. And then we're going to say perf.start. So what we've done here is, this is not something that you're going to ship to production. This is only something you're going to temporarily bring in the perf tools, do your profiling, and then remove it from your code. Okay? So I brought in the perf tools. I set it on the window so I can directly mess with it. And then I also told it to start recording as soon as the page loads. Okay? So what I want you to do now okay. Localhost 8080. So now the perfs tools are running, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to browse around a little bit. And so I can kind of get like a nice profile going. I'm just going to click into a bunch of these, go to the home page. Yeah, that's true. So now what I'm going to say is I'm going to say perf.stop. Okay, so now it's stopped recording. And then I'm going to say perf.print wasted. Wasted. So that actually wasn't too bad. So let's talk about what we actually did first. Okay, so when I was clicking around, it's doing a bunch of renders, it's doing a bunch of like destroying and re-upping of components, right? All of that different stuff. When I call print wasted, it's going to print out times that it was running the render method and nothing changed, right? Which is considered a wasted render. Normally this is not a problem. What you see here, where I'm wasting 0.1 millisecond, you don't care, right? You're really worried about things that are wasting tens of milliseconds, hundreds of milliseconds, right? And God forbid seconds, right? So like this one wasted 2 render counts, this one wasted 1. No big deal. If you have a performance profile like that, no big deal at all. However, I'm going to refresh the page again. I'm going to say or browse all, and then I'm going to, so now it's recording again, and I'm just going to type a bunch of stuff, and then untype it, and then type more, and type home, and then now I'm going to go in and say perf.stop, and then I'm going to say perf.printWasted, and you're going to see here I have 138 render counts that were wasted, and now we're starting to waste like 23.25 milliseconds, right? As you can see, that's a problem, right? That's going to spiral out of control, in particular if people are typing long things and then untyping them and all that kind of stuff, right? So right now this is a small perf problem, but as showcard becomes more and more complicated, it's going to balloon into a very large perf problem. And like if someone's on like a really crappy Android phone, this is a brand new MacBook Pro, right? So it's going to be fine, but a crappy Android phone, that's going to be a way bigger amount of stuff wasted. So again, yeah, this search.showcard, this 59 number, that's how many times it rendered and nothing changed, right? So what's nice about this is showcard is totally static, right? It doesn't really need to re-render. Once it renders the first time, it doesn't change, right? There's nothing dynamic about it. So this is a really easy performance optimization here. So I want you to open showcard real quick. Because ES6 classes don't have lifecycle methods, we're going to have to convert this into an ES6 class. So we're going to say class showcard extends component. We're going to have to import component at the top. from React. Okay. We're going to have a render method. And that is going to return that. So return blah. Prettier will fix my formatting for me. And then it's going to have props of what did I? Oh, and props is just going to be show, I think, like that. And cool. Oh, and then here, wherever it says props, we're going to have to say this.props. Okay, ES6 is going to, or lint is going to yell at you because it should be a stateless functional component, whatever. Above props, I think, we're going to say should component update. So in should component update, you're going to say, this is basically a method that instead of doing React's diffing algorithm to see if something's changed between renders, it's going to call your method and you're going to tell React, should you update or not. In this particular case, we have no state, and we don't expect the props to change for any one individual show card. So how often do we want this component to update its markup? Never. We never want it to update. So here, you're just going to say return false. So this is telling us, like, once this component has rendered for the first time, never update it. Okay, so now we're going to come over here, refresh. So we have a fresh start of it, and we're going to start typing a bunch. Atlanta, and then black, and then game. Okay, and then now we're going to say perf.stop and perf.printWasted. Much fewer things, right? We still have some in the header link, but we're not going to worry about that for now. In any case, we've mostly solved, well, we totally solved our show card problem, right? We don't even see it show up anymore because it's not doing that render anymore. Any questions about that?
Could you just go back to show card?
Sure.
It's not related to performance, but is importing the component at the top, is that cheaper than doing extends react.component?
No, it's just preference. Instead of doing this,
Yeah.
just preference.
Okay.
So I just gave you a really big hammer, right? Should component update, it's a really big hammer. I will say that I very rarely write these should component update components, and it's not because I'm particularly good at writing React or something like that and I'm avoiding these cases. Sometimes these cases are just inevitable, right? The issue here is, let's say I come back next week and I have now I need to have show component also show the rating, so it also needs to request from the API or something like that, so it's keeping track of state as well. So as soon as I add state to this, if I don't forget, or if I forget to update this should component update, it's never going to update, right? Because I've told React now, never update these components, right? So it's very easy to write these components that never update and then have to go back later and update them so they have to update themselves. And unless you're aware that they have a should component update method on them, it's a big foot gun because you're going to go and try and like change your code, or you're going to try and run it and nothing's going to change, and you'll be like, what the hell? Why is this not updating anymore? It's because you told it not to update anymore. So this is the most simple use case, and I would also say that as far as I can remember, no, that's not true. 95% of should components updates that I've written look like this. That's just returning false. However, you can get like maybe you only, maybe only year is the thing that updates, or maybe let's say rating, right? Let's say it has a rating, then you could say return props, or this dot props dot rating is not equal to, this has a next props right here, I think. Next props dot rating. So you could do something like that, like only update if rating is updating, right? And you can do that. So you can kind of like shortcut the amount of things that it needs to check, right? But again, this is a really big hammer. Do not write should component updates until you actually need them. Do not prematurely optimize your code. That's just a general piece of life advice for coding. Like, do not prematurely update your code or optimize your code. But in particular here, do not optimize this until it's actually needed. Any questions about that? Cool. So return false. Cool, so that is the perf tools. Since we're not going to be using it anymore, you can feel free to go into client app and remove them so that you're not including something that you don't need in production. The other thing is that because perf tools are hooking into the internals of React, it is going to make React itself a little bit slower. Actually, something else I just wanted to show you. I showed you print wasted because that's the one that you actually care about. But if I come in here and navigate around a little bit and come back and say, or browse all, Atlanta game, okay. So now if I say perf.stop, there's two other methods on here as well. There's perf.print inclusive. So this is going to print everything, including things that were not wasted, right? So this is going to print timers for everything, including the lifecycle methods, right? So you can see app is taking the most time to render, but that makes sense because app is literally everything. It's the sum of everything, right? But you can see here, like,
if that is over 60 milliseconds, then you're going to get some performance problems in painting, right?
This is a sum. This is not a rate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so it depends on how long you're clicking around that will happen.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But definitely if there are things in here, like for example, I mean, again, browser out, you expect that to, because that's rendering everything out. But let's say like here, component.search, you can see here the one that's taking the most time, the least performant component that we have here is search. It's still performant enough, for sure, by far, but that is the least performant component that we have. And you can see here the hot code path is the show card inside of there, right? That's taking most of the time inside of search. But that's just the nature of beast because we're doing lots of re-rendering every time we're typing, right? That just takes time. So that's expected. So that's inclusive, so that includes lifecycle methods. And then you can, if you're not interested in how much time the lifecycle methods are taking, then you can say exclusive. Come on. There we go. And now this is exclusive of lifecycle methods. Well, and all of the parent components as well, right? So you can see here that styled link right now is the thing that's least performant, but that's because it's doing a bunch of stuff with manipulating styles. So styled components are not necessarily the fastest React components. They are typically fast enough, though. Something else that bears mentioning, that with the advent of React Fiber just around the corner, these perf tools are going to these ones in particular are not going to directly work with Fiber. And that's just because these hook into internal methods inside of React, and so the way that Fiber works is totally different. So we will eventually get a different set of perf tools for React Fiber.